Welcome to episode 121 of the Inside Job Boards and Recruitment Marketplaces podcast. I am one of your two co-hosts. I'm Stephen Rothberg with College Recruiter, and we have an episode for you today that is, going to be a little bit out of this world, and we'll tell you a little bit. Our guest already knows where I'm going with that. But before we get to our guests, Peter, good to see you today.
I'm Peter Zollman with the AIM Group. We've got Rec Buzz coming up, and we do recruitment intelligence, as you know. And with us today is Patrick Martinchek. He's founder of Staff Party, but for our purposes, much more important, creator of JobFront. If you look at his resume, the out of this world part is he was a flight director for the Mars rovers. So we'll save that for a whole other time, because that's probably a good 15-minute conversation you and I may have in person next week if we can work it out.
Peter, you're making me sad that we're not going to geek out over the Mars rover. But okay, fair enough.
He is sitting in Lower Manhattan, and hence the tall buildings behind him. But he's the only employee of his companies. Tell us about JobFront.
Thanks, Peter. And also great to be here. I've been looking forward to this for a few months. Steve and I have been talking about this for 6 months, so excited to be here. JobFront is a jobs data platform. We scrape corporate job boards and package that data to sell to some of the largest job boards in the industry. We also sell that data to folks in the capital markets, hedge funds, private equity groups, and increasingly into government as well. We scrape jobs from hundreds of thousands of different companies every day. And the key difference between what we're doing and what some of the other data providers do is we use AI in place of humans in a lot of different areas. So our platform is entirely self-serve, entirely self-healing. So whenever a job board page structure changes, we detect that change probably before our customers do. We can regenerate a scraper on the fly and continue on scraping that data without any downtime. In addition to that, we do a bunch of sort of web scale enrichment. So we tag companies, we enrich them with additional data. We can talk a little bit more about that later. But the way that we think about jobs data at JobFront is that it's sort of this fabric. And on top of this fabric, we're building different types of apps. So we have a job board software product that we have a bunch of customers on. We have an analytics and reporting product on top of the data sets as well. And then something that Steve and I have been talking about for a while is we have an AI sales tool. We have a BDR that's fully automated as well on top of this sort of substrate of jobs data. So we're doing a lot. We have a lot of different products, but really the core of our business is jobs data scraping at web scale.
So I think it was 2 years ago now, maybe 3 years ago, Adzuna, a big UK-based aggregator, bought a company kind of in my backyard here in Minnesota called GetWork. And I think a lot of the value that GetWork delivered was they did the scraping of corporate career sites. And like you said, Patrick, a lot that data is really valuable, not just to job boards that are looking to get more content, more job content, but other organizations as well. Maybe you can talk to that. Like, why would a private equity firm, why would a venture capitalist, why would a government agency want to buy job data?
Yeah, it's a good question. So if you think about a job post, for a hiring company, a job post is an advertisement to bring on board talent that they need to solve a collection of problems. But if you look at that set of data from the outside, really every job post is an advertisement for the problems that a company has. And it's sort of like it's directional to where the company is going to go in the future. So for example, if you see that a company starts posting jobs in a new location, that's a really great insight that they're moving to that new location. If you see a company post different technographics within the job posting itself, that means that they're starting to use different types of technologies and they need new talent with new skill to come on board and help them out. But from an intelligence perspective, it means that they have new problems in the company that you can help to solve. From a private equity perspective and in a financial services perspective, it's great to have that directional signal as to where the company is going to go in the future. And you can make judgments as to whether or not you want to invest in that entity or invest in that industry or what changes are happening within that industry itself.
You said you use AI. I mean, scraping the ATSs and scraping the listings is not terribly difficult now. There are lots of companies that do it. GetWork, Aspen Tech. I could make a long list. And actually, I want to ask you about that. But then what do you do with it? other than have a repository somewhere?
You mean internally within our business, or how we package and sell it, or how we think about apps on top of it?
The AI aspects of it, you mentioned briefly. Let's expand on that.
Yeah. So just getting the raw data itself is, as you said, this industry has been around for 20 years, and so there's a lot of competitors at different scales. And so what we do is every job post that we grab, we send through a large language model. In some cases, multiple large language models. We have a data structuring process where we standardize things like compensation, location. Different vendors include this information in different formats, and so we standardize it into our own formats: city, state, country, zip code, ONET codes. Every job is tagged with standardization parameters. And then we do an enrichment process. And so we're looking for things like certification requirements. We're looking for things like problems that a company that are posted within the job posting. We're looking for things like first tasks, first projects. And so that enrichment process is a new thing that's really only been possible in the past few years with these large language models. And then after that, we have sort of a distribution process. So we can send XML feeds, JSON feeds. We have an API and webhooks. We also have that we send the data through some of our reporting systems as well. So you have visualization opportunities to actually show visually the data and trends in the data and signals in the data as well. But really, I think what you're asking about is that initial step, which is we have the data, we send it through large language models, and we structure the data, and then we enrich the data.
As the owner of a job board that processes a lot of data, we get like literally a million or activate a million new postings a day. Per average day, we probably get 2.5, 3 million postings, and then just choose not to run a lot of them because they require more years of experience than we want on our site. Basically, and if a job requires 6+ years of experience, we discard it because we're an early career site. But one of the things that I've learned over the years is just how incredibly inconsistent and incredibly messy the data that we receive from our customers is. So we will scrape with permission an ATS. We will import jobs from some of our customers. They might be programmatics, they might be other job boards. And it's amazing how incredibly incomplete a lot of that is. I can understand AI or a more traditional system going to an ATS, grabbing all the data that's there, putting it into an XML and saying, here you go. I can understand getting a feed from Appcast, Veritone, whatever. Here you go. What I'm hearing you say, Patrick, is if a job board or somebody else wanted to like essentially have those feeds go through JobFront, you could take those, enrich those, then send them to the job board. So if they're not getting compensation data, if they're not getting occupational fields, then you can add that. Is that one of the things that you do in the job board world?
Only if it's available on the page. So one of the, we're not making up data. We do have averages and we have ranges of compensation. So that's sort of an outlier case where we are tracking trends over time. And if a customer is interested in enriching with a trend, we can do that. But we don't do that by default. We're not hallucinating data or making up data. But what we find is that for ATSs, they do typically follow the Google posting JSON structure. Like there is structured data that you have access to. But once you start getting into the long tail of careers pages, that's actually not the case. A lot of companies post their compensation data in random places on the page. They change that location frequently. And so what we do is we're looking for the compensation information, just to drive this point home. We're looking for that anywhere on the page. And if we find it and we have confidence that the compensation information is attached to a particular job, then we will structure that data, even if it's not contained within standard formats like the Google JSON posting format.
Yeah, like sometimes you'll see on an ATS, there will not be a salary field or a salary
Yep.
range field,
Yep.
but it'll be literally within the third paragraph.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
This is who we are. This is the role. You'll love working here because bullet, 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 bullet. And the 15th bullet is we pay $14 to $18 an hour. So
Yeah.
I think what you're saying is you'll extract that if you have high confidence and include that. Same thing then with occupational fields, location.
Yep.
If it's not on
Yep.
the page, you're not inferring.
Yeah, that's true. And there's all kinds of edge cases. Like sometimes you get recommendations of other jobs on the sidebar of pages. And so we have a lot of technology that's able to eliminate that noise. So we're really just focused on the page that's loading. A lot of times you see, a single location tagged in the structured data, but then in the job posting itself, you see a bunch of other locations, or you see remote capabilities or remote potential of a job with certain restrictions. And so what we're really doing is we're taking all of that natural language and sending it through a couple of different processes that allows us to structure all of the data on the page, not just the pre-structured data in these formats that are well known.
That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
I think we got time for one more question, but I'm gonna throw you a compound question, because we always say we're not gonna ask two questions in one. I'm gonna do it. Number one, you say you're profitable and you only have one employee, which means you're spending a lot of money on computing and contractors, no doubt. And number two, how are you selling this to the job boards and to the private equity people and so forth? How you doing that? And then we got to wrap up pretty quickly.
Sounds good. Yeah, this is a quick one. So that's right. Within Jobfront, we have no full-time employees. We started the business a couple of years ago, knowing that it was going to be an AI-first business, and so I work very closely with the OpenAI team, and we get all kinds of. We just got this award from them because we are one of their top users of API tokens, and so we build all of these
That's
AI
so much
agents.
nicer than your bill probably is.
Right. Well, but the great thing the great thing about these tools is that they decrease in cost every year. And so if you're hiring a big team, employees expect an increase in pay. The great thing about these tools is that you get like a 40x decrease in cost year over year for the same intelligence, something like that. It's incredible. But in any case, so we've built a lot of internal tools that allow us to build marketing, build sales collateral, and then the actual programming itself, we have a whole bunch of AI agents that are writing code. So the typical process for writing a scraper is a human-driven process. You evaluate how to scrape the page, you build the scraper, you test it, you maintain it. What we have done over the course of the past 12 months is drop the cost of generating a scraper for a given page from about $40 down to about 40 cents. Next year, we'll drop it by another factor of 10. So as a result of using AI, we're able to drop the cost. We're also able to automate an incredible amount of the work of just maintaining scrapers and building a scraper fleet. With regards to sales, a bunch of things. So we have a very generous referral program. We've been very grateful to um, build very friendly relationships with some of the largest job boards here in the US. And then we've had just a ton of early supporters. I think people are curious about how we're using AI. I think we're very unique as a business that we're able to use AI not just for writing code and building products, but also for actually building marketing collateral and running our own AI sales tools. And so I think people are curious about what we're doing. We share very openly about how some of these things operate. And as a result, we've just had a lot of fans and supporters who have been very helpful to get us into the right conversations with very supportive customers early on. What I will say is that early next year, we likely will start building out a bit more of a sales team, and especially as we move into some new markets, government sales and capital markets especially. But yeah, for the most part, we've been able to automate a lot of the activities of the business using all these new tools in the past couple of years.
Sounds great. We could go on for another hour if we had the other hour, but we don't. We're hitting 15 minutes. So we're going to wrap up. Thank you. Happy holidays. I'll be in touch. Stephen, thank you very much for being the producer and the main brains behind this operation. I don't say that often enough. Because that just illustrates how anyway, enough of that.
Next
Have a
time we're
good one.
talking about the Mars rover and the balloons and all of that kind of stuff. But Patrick, it's been awesome.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good one. Take care.
Cheers.